It's time for health tips. Now here's your host, Dr. Alma Jenkins.
Good evening. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Dr. Alma Jenkins and this is Health Tips. You know, I do appreciate when I'm out and about in the stores that you'll tell me that you're watching the show. But I want you to lift your cans too. I want you to do the exercises. And even more importantly, when we're not on the show, I want you to do some exercise. Thank you so much for watching. Let's back up a little bit and talk about the fact that we still would like for you to send us your recipes. If you have a healthy recipe that you want us to try on the show or you want to share with us, just send it in to the station address. And we will be happy to do that recipe. We might invite you to come in and fix it for us. So we're going to be picking the most delicious of the healthy recipes, and we would like to showcase you with your healthy recipe. Well, look how far along in the year it is. Here we are at the 4th of July. Are you planning anything special? Well, I have to tell you something. This year, we're having a little get-together. My brother turns 60, so we're going to celebrate that this year. So I'm kind of excited about that. And I hope that you have a very healthful and a very happy 4th of July. What are we going to do tonight? Well, you know, I thought, first of all, let me say, I have so much on my mind, I don't know where to start. I did a garden this year. This is my first year doing a serious garden. And at some point, I may show it to you. But I have to tell you that the bugs ate my cabbage. I planted the collards too soon. They ate that up. But it was so much fun to plant everything. And you know what? Out of that garden, I got squash. I got okra. And I tell you, this is addictive. Growing something from the seeds. And these were grown from seeds. But growing something from the seed is just an amazing thing. I'm totally hooked on it now. So what I thought I would do is make a dish that totally comes from what's on hand. I didn't have to go out and buy anything extra. I did go out and get a few things because I was out of it, but nothing other than I would have normally in my pantry. The one thing I did go out and get that I don't usually buy is butter. Now, you know, I'm not a proponent of your using a lot of butter, but what I found is that, you know, butter probably has gotten a worse rap than it deserves, and it does give quite a good bit of flavor to what you're cooking. I still use, I can't believe it's not butter for the most part. I do use that. But every now and then, if you wanted to use some butter, I wouldn't cry about it. But, you know, I don't use much of it if I ever do. And in the show, we never really use it. But I used a little bit of it in this dish, and it was really nice. So I want to do a dish for you where you can do either a small amount of butter or just I can't believe it's not butter, which I prefer. And the ingredients are onions, just a plain onion, my squash that comes out of my garden, and some okra, okay? Now, I did get a couple of extra okra in case I needed it because I didn't have that many okra that were ready in my garden. So I did buy a little bit of extra okra, but let's see how far this goes first. So what I'm going to do first is prepare what we're going to do. So I'm going to, you know, get the onions ready. Let's move some of this stuff that we don't need out of the way. Okay, so you can see. So I've got this onion, and I'm gonna cut my onion, and then I'm going to cut my onion this way and use the grain of the onion to help, you know, slice it up. This way I only have to slice it one time going this way. Okay, and look at that, that's nice. Nice, nice, nice. And then I'm going to cut up my okra, I've already rinsed it. Now, I didn't use any pesticides in my garden. For those of you who are planning to have a garden, if you'll plant some marigolds amongst your garden plants, they say that helps keep the bugs off. I went out and bought some spray that was non-pesticide, but I think the rain washed it off, and I should have sprayed it again, and I didn't. So if I showed you these those plants, you would laugh because the bugs didn't leave me anything. I mean, they cleaned it to a stalk. So it looks like a skeleton cabbage. Now this particular okra is a little hard, so I'm not sure what it's gonna taste like exactly. But you know, I bought some extra okra, which I'll probably use. Now, whenever I use my squash, I like to cut fairly thin pieces. Not too thick, not too thin. Kind of medium size. Okay? And then if you want, you can always cut that. If you want, okay? I'd like a little bit more okra, so if you'll hold just a minute, take a look at that, I'll get some more. Now, so I guess you could say it's cheating a little bit because these didn't come from my garden, but they're okra all the same. And I like buying organic foods if I can help it, if I can. You know, that can get to be a little expensive. So I'm going to cut up a little bit more okra here. I'm going to go ahead and cut the aisle on, let it be heating, and let it start heating up. I like my okra cut fairly thin. I don't really like the when you boil it because it's kind of slimy, and I don't like slime. I guess I see enough slime in gastroenterology that I try to avoid it in food. So that gives us a little bit more in the way of okra. Okay. So now what we're gonna do is gonna put a little olive oil in here. Okay. And I'm gonna use, I can't believe it's not butter because I can't bring myself to show you using real butter, but you can if you like a little bit. And see, the taste is pretty good. I'm gonna see if it makes any difference. I'm gonna use a little teeny bit because I want to confirm that flavor. I'm just gonna use, look, just a pat right there, just for flavor. But again, you don't have to. I prefer not doing that, but I'm gonna just give you a taste through the television, let you see how it tastes. I'm gonna get some garlic salt that we didn't have there. So I don't know how many of you buy garlic powder, not garlic salt, garlic powder. That's what we're gonna use. So I'm gonna let that get nice and warm there. And then I'm gonna put this in there. So what do I have here? I have onions, I have squash, and I have okra. Let's put a little bit more squash in there. And you know, I'm so proud of this squash, something I grew myself in my garden. Isn't that wonderful? Ah, I'm hooked, ladies and gentlemen. I plan to have a garden year-round. And you want it to get nice and warm enough that the stuff is gonna sizzle when it gets in there, okay? And then you know you got it going. Okay, so let's go. It's a very mild sizzle. Starting to come alive now. Now, a lot of you say, I don't like okra, you know, but fix it like this, and I promise you, if there's any way you're gonna like it, you'll like it this way. I want to get everything I cut up. Okay, trying to get all the ingredients in there. Now, I usually will season this with some garlic powder, not garlic salt, okay? So don't go get garlic salt. I like to go ahead and grind my pepper. Okay, I like a lot of ground pepper. And then, of course, I'm a sea salt fan. So I'll put some sea salt there. Not a whole lot. And then we just kind of let that start to, I call it sauteing. I like my onions to get caramelized, you know. Get brown. So I put as much against the pan as possible to facilitate it getting ready. One of my habits that I tend to do a little more of than I should is to cook fast. So I'm going to turn this down some to medium. And there are some of you that don't like things cooked quite as done as I do it. But I like a little bit of a brown crispness that comes. And while that's doing that, you know what I want to do, right? Now that's so simple. That is basic ingredients in there, nothing extra. But if you want your kids to eat their veggies, or even if you're an adult and you're not a vegetable person, you can throw that together. And I'm telling you, that's gonna be delicious. So we're gonna wait. All right, so you got your cans? 1, 2, 3, and 1. And 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6, 7, and 8, 9, and 10. 2, 3, 4, and 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. 2, 3, 4. Now, if you really want to put a little spark in it, you can always have a little dash of lemon juice in there, but I'm not going to put any in this one because the last bit that I cooked like this was just like this, and it was delicious. But you can add a little zest to it with some lemon juice if you like. I'm going to turn that up a little bit more now and let it cook just a little bit more. This pan is not level, so I'm going to stir this to kind of move things around. Let it get even heat. One of these days you all going to tune in. I'm going to have new cookware, you know. So let's let that just do some more getting ready there. Okay. All right, let's go. And 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. How many of you have started grilling already? And 6. So be careful on the grill, okay? And remember that charring it a lot is really not all that healthy. And plus, you know, you don't grill every day anyway. So just be careful grilling. It is possible to get burns and to have problems if you're not very, very watchful. I think that it's important for you to be able to put your stuff on the grill, mind it carefully, make sure it doesn't get too charred up. If you're using lighter fluid on it, be careful. I know one time I grilled and I put a lot of lighter fluid on, and the food tasted like that, in which I didn't eat it because I didn't feel like that was really healthy. But now, you know, you can get charcoal that's self-lighting. You know, you don't even have to buy any lighter fluid or anything like that to put in your on your coals. So anyway, happy grilling. Let's look at this again. We don't want to burn it. I like to get a little color to my squash. I want it to turn a little brown. I want it to feel like it's got had some heat to it. So I want it to look like I've done something to it in the pan. Okay? Now I know a lot of you like to taste while you're cooking. I usually do too. This is looking good though, you know? It really is. Now if you want to steam it a little bit while you're doing this, you can always put a little water in it and it'll start to steam up, and you can put a top on it. And that'll soften everything up really nicely for you. Okay, and then you can put a top on it. And that will facilitate some of the need to cook so long. Now what I'm going to do is add just a little, look at that, just that little bit of water, and I'm going to let the steam carry it. I'm going to do that. That's going to facilitate that a bit. Okay, so when stuff starts to get sauteed really nicely and you want to, you know, finish cooking it but not too long, you can always add a little bit of water, put a top on it. The steam heat is going to help to cook it as well. All right, so let's do a little bit more of this. 1, 2, 3, and 1, and 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6, 7, and 8, 9, and 10. 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6, 7, and 8, and 9, and 10, 2, 3, 4, 11, 12, let's do 15, 13, and 14, and 15, 2, 3, and 4. I'm gonna tell you something, that's smelling really good. Oh, look at that. Oh boy. Some people would say you're cooking the sense out of that. That's way well done. It looks great too. Look at that. Look at that. That is nice. We gotta let that cool a little bit. It's hot as all get out, but it looks great. Okay, we're gonna be tasting that real shortly. Now, that's your veggie right there. So if you had that, if you're a meat eater, a little piece of meat right there. Some of you have to have bread with every meal. If you can kind of cut out some of that, you'd have a little roll there or something. Hey, that's a light lunch. That's a lunch right there. Now, I know a lot of you want to have your rice or your, your potatoes, but here's an opportunity for you to cut back on your carbs, on your starches, okay? So if you could have your veggies, a piece of meat, and maybe a small slice of bread, you could really make a meal out of that. Especially if you're trying to cut your calories, trying to cut your diet down a bit. Now, I know we did put oil in there. We even put a little bit of butter in there. But, you don't do that every day. And this is fresh, no pesticides, and it's good for you. And this is basic stuff out of your pantry and out of your garden or out of your refrigerator. All right? So let's see what else we can do now. Some of you are used to a lot of frying of your meat. I want you to get in the habit of baking or broiling whatever meat you're going to put with that, okay? And even if you're a fish eater, just fish, you can broil fish to a degree that is wonderful. One of the most flavorful baked fish places I've ever been to is a very non-fish place, a Cracker Barrel. And I'm not a Cracker Barrel representative, but they're rainbow trout. Very few places I go to know how to bake fish so it tastes good. And that's why we eat a lot of fried fish, because we can make that taste good. But baked fish just seems like people don't know how to fix that. But you know, they have it seasoned to the T, and it is absolutely delicious. And I think the key to it is the lemon juice and the cracked pepper that's put on there. And also, fish tastes really good if you marinate it for a while. That gives a chance for the flavor to go all the way through the fish. So those are just a few pointers for those of you who are trying to eat more healthily and you're trying to cook fish in a way that isn't always fried. So if you do that and you can bake it that way, having put the lemon juice on it and maybe a little olive oil, some salt and some pepper, the cracked pepper, you know, that you grind on there, I think you're going to find that that is absolutely delicious. And I think that's largely what they do to that fish, but it is some kind of good, and I recommend it. All right, so we're going to taste that in just a little bit. Let's let it cool off a little bit more. But this is summer. I hope you will remember some of the pointers that we brought out on our past show where we talked about water safety, those of you that are headed to the beach. And those of you who are thinking about, you know, burrowing yourself in the sand, you know, where you get down in there and get it all up, they don't recommend you try that. That can turn dangerous on you. Also, going out into the water, be sure there are lifeguards around and just be very careful. I hope that you will be able to watch. I'm sure we'll do that show again this summer, so you can watch that. That's coming up. So just stay tuned, because I'm sure that during this summer we will show that. We interviewed a lifeguard manager, and he gave us some very good points about water safety. All right? Okay, so here we go. Let's do some marching first, and then we'll do the movement with the cans. 1, 2, 3, and 1. Now I hope you're doing this with me, okay? And then most importantly, I hope you're doing it when we are not doing it together, but you're at home by yourself. I hope you're doing your exercise. At least 4 days out of the 7, you should be exercising, okay? Nobody sits you down and tells you what it's like to grow older, okay? But let me tell you that it's a process, and the better you take care of yourself now, the better your older age will be. Because your body is steadily trying to break down, steadily trying to become sedentary, to stiffen. So you need to keep it moving. Keep it moving. Those of you who are young don't have any problem doing that. You do it naturally. But after we get a little bit older, our tendency is to want to sit down, is want to, you know, take the elevator, not the stairs, that kind of stuff. So you're going to need to keep it moving. The other thing is, as you get older, get your screening tests, your mammograms, your colonoscopy. Men, check your scrotum. Your testicles. You know, you've got to keep track on all these things. Older guys, get your PSA, your prostate-specific antigen. You know, testicular cancer is still out there, so you're going to want to test that. You're going to want to, you know, check that, feel those, men. Ladies, we want to do our breast palpations once a month and get our mammograms. Oh, is it time for your mammogram? It's time for mine, so I need to go and get it. So I just want to remind you, if you haven't gone to get your mammogram, please go and get it, okay? All right, so how are we doing with getting us some taste of this now? All right, here we go. I'm going to give you a taste. Ah, boy, it looks good. I got some of everything here. You think I'm kidding, don't you? This is delicious. You're going to love it. And it's so simple. I know you probably already made this. I don't know what I'm going to call it, but the squash almost tastes sweet. And I don't know if that's because it's so fresh, because it's right out of my garden. I'm talking in the last couple of days picked out of my garden. So it has a sweet taste to it. But let me tell you something. This is delicious. And the onions, those of you who really don't like onions, but when you saute it like this, It's delicious. Now, you don't have to use as much oil as I used. I kind of like it that way, but you don't have to use as much as that. You can use a smaller amount. But, you know, I like to make sure that the stuff browns, you know, that it looks like it's been, that heat's been put to it. That's delicious. The other thing you can do with squash, you can cut it up in little pieces. You can put it in some vinegar, salt, pepper, and a little olive oil and eat it just like that raw. It tastes good raw, but cooking it brings out a sweetness in this squash. So I'm telling you, those of you who say you don't like squash, cook it this way and then tell me what you think about it, okay? All right, so we've got like a minute left. Let's go out with some exercise, okay? I want you to pick up your cans. I want you to stand up if you're sitting down. Those of you who can stand, let's go out with exercise and let's make some commitments to 4 days a week. You're going to exercise for at least 20 minutes. I want you to make that promise to yourself. That's part of taking care of your temple. All right? 1, 2, 3, and 1, and 2, 3, and smile while you're doing it, because you know what? This is fun. I'm enjoying myself. I really am. Okay? And 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, and 10, and 11, and 12, and 13. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dr. Alma Jenkins. Thank you so much for watching. See you next Saturday. Good night.